my international people. Oh, I am so happy to be back. Welcome back. This is 2013. Oh my God, we are after the end of the world. We hope you have survived the end of the world. And in the new world, we're talking about the same old stuff, which is how can we have a fair, decent society. On today's show, we're going to talk about the cost of a smile at Walmart. We understand that everybody's broke. It's January. We have spent all the money. We gave all the money to Santa so he can tell the children that he's the one who gave them all the gifts, but now we're the ones that are going to have to pay back all that money. We're the ones that are going to have to work for that money. So we're looking for cheap deals. Now, when we try to look for cheap deals, we go to Walmart. But do you know just how much it costs to have that cheap deal and that beautiful smile from Walmart, people? Welcome back. All right, so before we go any further, we will bring you our guest today, and it's going to be interesting and fascinating. Thank you for being back with us. You and I Talk Show 2013. We love you. Good evening, Mr. Hood.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being with us, and Happy New Year to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So they call you Chuck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does the name Hood mean, and where is it from?
Well, it's based, I'm told anyway, that it's part German, part English.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's about the extent of my knowledge on that one.
Well, you don't have a German accent.
No, it's, I moved around a lot, but I live in Oklahoma now, and it took me, I guess, over 40 years to learn to talk funny, but I've accomplished that.
Congratulations.
Yes.
All right. So you are the author of a very, very fascinating book for so many people because we are all, into Walmart and other types of marts. Your book is called Walmart Economics, Always the Greed Behind the Smiley Face.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is your problem with Walmart?
Well, my problem dates back to the early 80s, and at that point in time, I was in the advertising agency business. They retained our services to do an ad campaign to convince the American public that basically what they bought in the way of goods and what they sold were American-made. So we did. We came up with a campaign. We broke it nationally, and essentially it said that we buy all of our products made in the USA. We look for that label before we purchase anything. Well, we no sooner, I guess the campaign was out maybe 2 weeks, and the Wall Street Journal did an expose saying that what they're saying is wrong, and so no sooner did they break that story, and we got a call and said, come down here, we need to cancel that campaign, but we want to talk to you. So we had that meeting, and I asked the question, tell me, is the Wall Street Journal correct, or are you correct? I mean, tell me what the percentages are. And they said, oh, no, the Wall Street Journal's wrong, but you got to kill that campaign. Well, we did. We later learned that at that point in time, 52% of their products were coming from overseas, primarily from China, but other countries as well. So
they were trying to make an advertising campaign to convince people in America to buy their things because they were labeled as made in America, when in reality, more than half of their things was not made in America.
That's correct. And they were, we tout human rights, and we raise heck with China and other foreign countries in terms of their violations of human rights, and yet here's Walmart going over there, and they've got children, they have elderly working for pennies an hour. That today is about $3 an hour, according to my research, but it's certainly less than what they'd have to pay here in the United States. So that's why they were able to keep the prices down.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have said something to me that was so shocking and so horrifying. The most powerful individuals or entities right now is the government, China, and Walmart.
Well, I started, as I told you, I started a little bit personal. I was upset because they'd run my company out of business, and that was not the agency. That was another company, which, let me back up a little bit. But our company had calculators for the handles of shopping carts. Mm-hmm. And the point of the calculator on the handle of the shopping cart, they were in all the Walmarts, is that when you use a calculator, you're going to spend more money when you're shopping. Mm-hmm. And it's very simple. If you go into the store with a $50 bill in your pocket, you don't have anything, you don't have any checks or credit cards, so you tend to round up your purchases. If you buy something for $1.50, then it's $2 mentally. If you buy something else for for $1.50, it's another $2. In reality, you spent $3, and you charged yourself, or you credited your account for $4. So consequently, when you check out, you're going to check out having spent somewhere in the low 40s as opposed to the $50 opportunity you had. By using the calculator, we actually increased their average transaction size from $42 to $44. Now, mm-hmm. The statement, what you were leading up to, is I made the statement that today I think the three worst enemies of the American economy are our government, which continues to overspend and spend with monies we don't have, China, which loans us the monies, and Walmart, which buys all their goods from China and in turn supports the loans to the United States.
Wow. Now, Walmart is an American company, though.
That's correct. But the
people who own Walmart, is this a private company? Like, tell us the story itself of Walmart and its owners, the people who own it and operate it, the people who make it happen.
Well, it was started in Arkansas by Sam Walton, and at the time, his philosophy was to buy as cheap and sell as high as he could possibly do it, and that's basically a philosophy they've stuck with. They've grown. There were 2012 sales totals were $443.9 billion. Okay? Today, 90% of the goods they purchase are purchased from China and other such countries. That means that $400 billion is going overseas to China as opposed to $40 billion staying here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Now, they've announced two new programs. One, they intend to dedicate another $100 billion worth of American-made products over the next 10 years. That's $10 billion per year, or less than 2%, less than 2.5% of their total sales, and it will go down as their sales go up. They've also announced a program. They're going to hire 100,000 returning vets from overseas, but the problem with that is the people they hire now are very disgruntled with the benefits and with the wages they pay, and I don't think I'd want to go to Afghanistan knowing I'd come back as a Walmart greeter.
Yeah, imagine you come back from Afghanistan and your job is to greet people at Walmart, and if you're not happy with it, what are the conditions, the working conditions of the workers?
Well, they're not good. I mean, I'd cut it, as I told you, I'd term Walmart as kind of the bully of America today. They're running people out of business. They're forcing companies to either adhere to their pricing structures or forget it. They can take their products to China, they can manufacture in China, or they can just shut down their doors. And in that case, they're running a number of companies out of business, in particular retailers and manufacturers. When they come into any community, by nature, they're going to run out any number of current businesses. And they say today that when they come into a new community, and they run out X number of different kinds of businesses, anybody that really sells anything that they market, that those stores they ran out of business contribute to 70% of their revenues today in that particular location. Now,
so the people that they put out of business, if they come in a neighborhood or they come in a country or they come in a city and they put so many people out of a business, then that contributes to 70% of their future revenues.
That's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
Those are my figures. Those are statistics that are given to me. And today, according to ABC News, 92% of their goods come from overseas.
Oh, my. Now, isn't this the essence of capitalism? Aren't people going to call you a communist for finding this wrong? Or why do you find this wrong since it is a capitalistic society?
It is if we make our purchases in the United States. In other words, to me, it's very unfair. In other words, they are so big, they can go to China. They have these super liners now that are the biggest on the seas that do nothing but take goods from China to the U.S. and then back again, basically empty, but pick them up and bring them back. They're faster than anything as far as cargo ships out there. They've developed these super ships for cargo.
Mm-hmm. But so aren't they living the essence of capitalism, where the idea is what you say that the founder was saying, buy at the lowest and sell at the maximum and make the maximum profit no matter what happens?
That's the philosophy, but the philosophy is level the playing field. Mm-hmm. In other words, they have the advantage because they're so big, they can buy so many goods, they can get lower prices, and then when they can go overseas and beat you or me in terms of pricing significantly, they have that advantage. And what happens is they run the companies out of business in the United States, and the guy that loses his job goes directly to Walmart to make his purchases. I've had any number of people since I wrote that book said, oh, gosh, we couldn't live. My family couldn't get along without Walmart. And that may be, but I mentioned that government, China, and Walmart are enemies.
Yes.
As far as the government's concerned, they tend to, it's like throwing darts so far as the surplus, or excuse me, what am I thinking? Stimulus monies.
Mm-hmm.
They toss them here, they toss them there. I think my solution would be to give Walmart tax credits for the reduction in imports. In other words, let's make these monies do some good.
So you're saying that it would only be a fair system if they had their goods produced in America and sold in America.
Well, that'd be a perfect world, and don't misunderstand. Walmart's not the only one that does this. Mm-hmm. I mean, every large merchant out there does the same thing. They just don't do it to the extent that Walmart does.
Now, do you think that this is tied to the American dark history of slavery, where people, the richest people anyways, always think that labor has to be free or totally cheap and inhumane in order for them to be successful and make money? That's
what drives the cost down. You're right. I mean, yes.
So this is just like modern day.
It's become the modern day way of doing business. I just think that Walmart has taken it to an extreme. Mm-hmm. As far as the humane conditions, as I said, that China's famous for violating the humanitarian conditions in every way, and where they can't do it in the U.S. The other thing is we establish rates of labor that are fair here for the most part. Compared to over there are no regulations. You have minimum wage as the bottom line, so to speak, whereas over there's no such thing.
Now, what can regular people do? Because regular people are suffering. The economy is so bad, and they do need to get a cheap deal. Isn't it like a vicious circle, a trap? What can people do if they want to get a cheap deal?
Well, I think, first of all, don't spend so much money at Walmart. But I think our government has to take a step in. And as I said, I think they need to offer some tax credits for a lesser amount of imports. Now, I had occasion to speak with a legislator, and he'd read my book. In fact, he called me, and he said, what you're talking about is kind of the tip of the iceberg. He says, we have another very big concern that you haven't even discussed. I said, really? And he said, yes. He says, what happens if we go to war with China? What happens if we go to war with any country And we have continued to run all of our manufacturers out of business. So we're going to have China do our armaments. He said it's a very, very big issue, and I couldn't agree more.
It's a very dangerous situation. They're not going to give you functioning guns.
That's right.
They're going to give you
exactly
made in China wal-mart guns. I don't know what's going on.
We may be shooting BBs at Chinese.
And they're going to make sure that everything they send to America is poisoned. How about that?
Well, that's true, too. I mean, there are any number of things. It's not a healthy situation for America or its Americans, because the economy continues to get worse, unemployment continues to go up, and until we can get some of these jobs back in the U.S. as opposed to overseas and start making products, every manufacturing facility that you're able to open in the United States is going to spring any number of suppliers. But when they shut down a manufacturing concern, they shut down all of their vendors, and they do it without any thought given to it. Basically, they have a mission that's to beat you into the ground, get it for the lowest possible price, and they could care less what the casualties are during the course of the action.
Ooh, so heartless. Have you looked into how they also have shops in other countries, and what are the names? Because when you travel to other countries, they have other kind of marts. It's not called Walmart. It's called, I don't know, Nakumat or something else.
About a third of their sales, it's not quite a third today, come from the international marketplace. So the 440, I believe it's $130 billion of the 440 come from the international marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting a foothold everywhere.
These are companies that they create in other countries, and they do the same in other countries too. Correct. As they're doing. And people flock to their doors because they have these cheaper prices.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So what is the consumer? What's the responsibility of the consumer?
Well, not to make all the purchases at Walmart. Right now, Walmart they're on the verge. They're threatened with strikes all the time because of a group of unhappy employees. And again, that tracks back to lack of benefits and lower prices, to lower wages.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the relationship between Walmart and its employees being as the relationship between a king and a serf. What do you mean by that?
Well, Walmart's king right now. They're the king. They're the world's largest business, if you will, and they're pretty much doing whatever they want. They treat their employees without respect, without the respect that's due. I'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big problems they have. And you hear all kinds of jokes as far as some of the greeters and the guys that were colonels in the army or whatever, having to greet people. It's a little different kind of lifestyle, and that's kind of off the subject, I guess. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but that's what's happening now. What kind of conditions are they working in these countries, in China, for example, where they produce these these cheap goods, versus the conditions in which people are working in America? So they may never give those good conditions to the workers in America because they're used to treating the Chinese worker even worse.
Well, the Chinese worker is communistic. Therefore, the people that are netting the income from their work is the government. And they're paying them whatever they can get by with, and in most cases that's very, very little. There's no capitalistic system over there. Whereas over here, if it's capitalism, it drives the engine, and the wages have to be higher or you're not going to find employees. Whereas over there, it's a flat fee, if you will, and if you either take it or leave it. So it's communistic versus capitalistic, and what we're doing is we're condoning communism by going over there and bringing our products in to sell them here in America.
So in America, we're condoning communism, but we're using it.
No, we're condoning it, yes.
Yeah, we're condoning it, But that's like we in the on the front side, but on the back side, we're using it to enrich ourselves.
That's correct. Yes.
Now, is Walmart is as a family business, right?
Well, it's a public company. I mean, it started out as a family business and has expanded to the point that it's well beyond being a family-oriented company. I mean, or family-owned company. Obviously, the family ownership still owns a ton of it, but I don't know what the percentages are today, but they'd be minuscule compared to what they used to be.
Mhm. And what's their stock on the market?
I know the earnings have been about $4 a share each quarter, $4 to $5 a share for the last several years. I'd have been much better off investing my money in Walmart stock than the products we tried to sell them.
But investing in a Walmart stock would be the same. I mean, who is worse, the person that invests in the Walmart stock or the person that shops at Walmart, or
I know what you're saying, and they're both agitators, so to speak. But in our case, what they did with us, we put these calculators on the handles of the carts. Mm-hmm. For 3 years, we did research. We employed companies like Nielsen and other leaders, and we documented the fact that we increased their average transaction size from $42 to $44. We increased the sales of all advertised products in excess of 28%, and the consumer gave the value of the service an 8.6 on a scale of 1 to 10. And Walmart, that wasn't good enough for Walmart. They decided they needed to have 80% of the ad revenues of the advertisers that were advertising on the calculators, and we couldn't even put the calculators on the carts for that particular margin. So they kicked us out. Basically, they said, "Hey, you give us 80% or you're out of here," and that's what happened. They shut our company down.
Wow, they're worse than, I don't know, pimps or people like that. They expect to get 80% of your money out of something that you create. You created something, and you go in business.
The first day I called on them, they said, "Well, yeah, we'll look at them, we'll test them, but if we like it, we'll build our own." I said, "Well, I've got 14 patents on these. It's going to be difficult." And I said, "Well, who do you think you are? We'll do anything we want to do." And that's how we started out.
So they will steal your idea if you don't want to sell it to them?
Well, really what they're saying is, we'll build your product even though you have it patented because you don't have enough money to sue us to take it back. And they were right. So we had 100 people in our company that lost their jobs just because of that. And, a lot of calculators sitting around the warehouse doesn't do you a lot of good.
So this is after you say, no, we cannot give you 80% of your hard work. We can't give you that because obviously who does that? Who gives 80% of their work?
Right.
And then they say, well, if you don't want to give us 80%, we will do it without you, and we will get 100%.
Right. But I don't know what they've done since in that regard, quite honestly. I can tell you my personal experience was when we started manufacturing the calculators, we were actually manufacturing the guts in China. And we tested them. They sent us test calculators, and they were terrific. You could freeze them, you could boil them, you could throw them against the wall. Everything was great. They wouldn't break. And the first shipment that came in, an eyedropper of water put them out of commission. We ended up having them all made by Texas Instruments in the United States, just from a quality standpoint.
Oh, wow. Now, it's very interesting when you say that, Walmart is comparable to the government because right now there's a couple of international wars going on in which America is involved. And the people of the world out there, they seem to be complaining that America comes and tells them, hey, this is how much we'll pay you for your gold, for your oil. And if you don't like it, we're going to bomb you, and we're going to get it for 100%. We're going to get it all. I mean, is this comparable to that attitude of Walmart? Do you see a similarity? Do you see a pattern?
Well, certainly there's a similarity, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that goes on, I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of corruption in our government. We just need to get things straightened out. I don't know that we ever can. But I do think the government needs to step in and say, okay, that's enough of the imports. You're going to all, and again, I don't mean just Walmart. I'm talking about the other big stores. But reduce your number of imports. That way we can get the manufacturers to restart. We can get more retailers back in business, and we'll put more people back to work.
What if the government heavily taxed importations and made it much more complicated to have imports, and instead made it so much easier and gave all those credits to people who would create jobs locally in their local communities?
Well, certainly it helps. I mean, they're going to be fighting the other countries with the higher taxation because no country's going to want that. But if they would just say, okay, you start buying more American products, we'll give you tax breaks, then it may not alienate the other countries so much as it would by taxing their imports.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is the deal? What is this deal that China gives to business people that makes it so good that all the business people would rather go to China instead of doing business in Canada? It's so expensive. Instead of doing business in America, instead of doing business in Europe. What is so good, or what is so attractive in China that everyone is going to China?
They don't pay the workers very much, if at all, so to speak. Consequently, the goods can be sold considerably less than what it costs to make them here in the U.S.
Oh, so China is just the new plantation.
Well, it's back to communism. The government runs the manufacturing facilities. The government runs the people that do the work. The money that Walmart pays goes to the government, and as I said previously, then the Chinese government loans the Walmart monies back to the U.S. to take care of our increasing deficit.
So who benefits from all this? Who truly benefits from this?
Well, Walmart, not the guy on the street. And I don't know about the politicians, but they could, if they would listen to their constituents as opposed to do their own thing, I think that most of them would say, guys, yes, we've got to reduce the number of imports. I think that's just the gist of the whole thing. How you do it, my particular way to do it would be the tax credits. But you've got to come up with a system that allows the young entrepreneur to start his company, or some of the people that got run out of business to restart their companies, as opposed to sit on the sidelines and draw unemployment.
Wow, great advice to people who are listening out there, and people should know that that cheap deal is actually costing them so much more and costing the entire society so much more. Now, I hear that your book has won prizes and has like 4 or 5 stars, great reviews. What has been the reaction in general to your book, and is Walmart trying to get you out? Still trying to get you out of business? Are they going to sue you for telling us these things?
Walmart's not selling my book. However, I had a friend that called Walmart and asked them if they sold the book, and they said no, but you can buy it on Amazon, which was a surprising development. I had no expectation of that. But the book itself was actually a finalist for Best Nonfiction Book of 2011, and that was by a literary award group called the Discover Awards. It received several 5-star reviews, and the lowest rating it received was 4.5 stars. So it's received excellent reviews, and I've had any number of people that said, "Boy, you've hit the nail on the head, and it's sure good to read that sort of thing." Because the other thing, I've had very little press on this, and that's primarily related to the newspapers that say, "No, we're not going to publicize it because if we did, we'd lose our ad revenues from Walmart."
Yes, and you're the kind of people that we love to hear from because we don't have any ad revenues from.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, if you did, you probably wouldn't have called.
We would definitely would not be interviewing you. The show would be canceled in the morning.
Right, right. But that's
So
that's
we
been a
enjoy
problem.
our independence. We can speak to many people that do not get the media attention. So, has Walmart tried to interfere with your publication?
No, no. Other than just their presence has reduced the ability to gain any press on it, and they also own several book distributors, so it hasn't had wide distribution from that standpoint. But as I said, it is on Amazon.
Wow. So, because they are so connected in the media is not touching your book. And then because they have connections in the big publishing industry,
Right.
the big
Right.
publishing industry is also not going to touch your book. And, of course, they're not going to sell it. And then they don't want anybody to know about this.
Well, they're trying to keep it a well-guarded secret.
So what do
there
you
have been
do?
other books written.
What do you do about it? What are you are you still trying to get your message out? How do you get your message out?
I haven't been actively doing so. I'm writing other books at this point in time, but because I almost like threw up my hands not being able to get the distribution I'd hoped for.
Mhm. Have you tried other companies, or is it impossible to be on the market right now in competition with them as it is?
It's tough. I've tried several different companies as far as publishers and that sort of thing, but right now it's difficult. I mean, it's kind of like Big Brother's watching. I don't care what happens. I don't really want to go up against those people.
Mhm. So what is the solution actually? Because you are struggling through this. Is a person who is in a society that, despite your message may be right, your message may be for justice and fairness and all those beautiful things,
right.
But it gets interfered with because of things that you're denouncing. What are the options that people like you have in this society?
Well, it's never going to be a perfect world, and regardless of what I do or anybody else does, I just think that the government needs to intercede to an extent. And as I said before, not just Walmart, all of the major people that are buying the majority of their products from overseas and neglecting the purchase from here in the United States. And in doing so, that's what damages the economy. Mm-hmm. I just have to believe that if the government would intercede, and I'm not advocating communism, but at least make some incentives available where if the manufacturers could get back in business, other retailers could get back in business, because any time they go into a new marketplace, they run X number of retailers out of business, and then they run X number of manufacturers out of business that can't meet their needs in terms of pricing.
Mm-hmm. Now, back in the days when America didn't have this problem, when you still have the manufacturers at home, what was going on? Why were companies staying in America? Is this because China was still behind and they had not built their manufacturers? I mean, why did you used to have businesses in America? And is it just because of cheap labor in China? Any other causes and reasons to why businesses have moved to America?
Well, we've become a much smaller world. If you go back decades and before computers or whatever it might be, we were a very large world to the point where we didn't really know what was going on in various countries, mm-hmm. nor did they have access to knowing about us to say, hey, we could take that niche market. I just think the fact that our world has become so tiny, if you drop a pin there, we hear it here within the next 2 seconds. I mean, it's just our world is so small and more inquisitive. Everyone's It's more competitive, more inquisitive, and much, much smaller. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
I definitely see what you're saying. So where do you see it going in the future? Because this world that we're living in, how do you see independent operator surviving?
I don't. I see unemployment going up. I see the economy getting worse. And I'm not a pessimist normally. In fact, if anything, my wife would tell you I'm an optimist of the highest degree. But I just don't see until we take care of some of these things that it's going to get any better. I just do not see. I can't see how. There's no incentive to start a new business. You better have a very unique niche if you're going to start a new retail business. And if you're going to if you're going to get in the manufacturing business, again, you better have a unique niche and know what you're doing better than anybody else. But the wages comparatively, say $3 in China versus $25 here or more, that's the big difference. That's what creates the problem.
The wages. Now, is this because China has so much population and they just have way too many people, and those people are willing to work at the lowest price because there's just no opportunities for them in their society?
I think that's right. In other words, the government rules, and consequently they're going to create the jobs and tell you what it's going to pay. It's not a matter of free enterprise at all.
And since they have so much population,
plentiful jobs. I mean, plenty of people for the jobs. Put it that way.
So the market is really in favor of the employer, if you think about it.
Well, yes.
Oh, I see. Now, did you have any recommendations to the people who are listening right now?
Other than buy my book?
Buy your book and find out what is really going on with Walmart and with the other companies. Do you go around talking and giving talks? How can people reach you? What are the services that you're currently offering, and how have you been able to recycle yourself as a creative business person?
My website is www.walmartseconomics.com. I'm sorry.
Yes, I have visited it. wal-mart-economics.com.
Correct.
And you also have a website which is charleshhood.com.
That's correct. And I've got another book on there, and I'll have two more coming up. But
so what are
I haven't written anything else on Walmart. Probably will not. As I said, I've talked to some legislators. I get a good ear, but whether or not they'll do anything, I have no idea, because I think a lot of people get an ear almost immediately, but what goes on past that point, who knows?
Yes. So hopefully those who are hearing today, they're conscious, they will choose to do the right thing. What are your future books that you are working on, that you are currently working on?
One of them is The Pastor's Prey, Prey, and it's not published yet, but it is a story about a young woman that was captured by a minister and kept as a sex slave for 23 years, and they adopted their children. He adopted their children within his congregation and actually converted it to a business of selling the children to the members of the congregation.
Oh, no.
And the other one isn't finished yet.
Sorry. Is this a nonfiction story too?
It's a nonfiction story, that's correct. And it came to me as a result. The other one is a story of, it's titled Big Rigs, Posh Digs, Fast Cars, Dark Bars. And it's a story of Big Rigs, Posh, P-O-S-H, Digs, Fast Cars, Dark Bars.
Are you talking about rappers?
What?
Are you talking about rappers?
No, I'm not. This happens to be a true story of a young man whose father died. His father had founded and operated one of the largest trucking companies in the world. And when his father died, the mother appointed the son, who'd never worked a day in his life, to be the new CEO. He went through $90 million in less than 8 years, hired all of his drinking buddies to manage the company, and it's really, it was told to me by the more than 1,500 people that lost their jobs as a result of his actions.
Wow, 1,500 people lost their job because a spoiled, rich kid mismanaged $90 million of his father's company.
Right.
So his mother, was she normal when she appointed him, or?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, he was the apple of her eye, and it didn't matter whether he'd worked or not, and he hadn't. And so she just put him in to head the company.
So did they go broke?
Did
they go broke, the family itself?
Pretty close to it.
Wow. I definitely can see you winning more prizes for your books.
Well, I hope you're right.
You know, this book about Walmart, its praises and the prizes that it has won. And now these 2 new stories, wow, we're going to have to talk to you again in the future.
Well, I'd love to. Very,
very fascinating. Now, the pastor, in this country, is this happening?
Yes, in the United States, that's correct.
Ooh.
The woman finally escaped, but that's the storyline.
Oh, wow. I really can't wait to read these books. Keep us in touch, and thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're about to let you go. Do you have something you want to tell to the listeners? Any last comments that you would like to make before we let you continue your journey?
Well, I think I've probably talked enough, but I don't want them to think this is a personal vendetta, but I do think it's for the good of America.
So. Yeah, because this, you started looking into it because...
And Canada, don't misunderstand.
Yes, of course. We're the same country, really.
Right.
You started looking into it because they did you wrong, but then after a while you found out that you were not the only person that they were doing this to.
Absolutely.
It's a generalized, it's their way of operating.
That's exactly right. It's the Walmart way or the highway.
Wow. Dictatorship.
Yes. That was my experience.
Total dictatorship. Do we need to call the United Nations to bomb them or something?
I didn't tell you that. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and have a great day. And people can reach you at charleshhood.com, and they can also reach you at walmart-economics.com.
Correct.
All right. Have a great evening, Chuck, Mr. Hood, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Well, my international people, you have heard for yourself. Be conscious in your shopping. I'm not telling you where to shop. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. It's your money. I spend my money however way I want. I spend it where I want. I am trying to spend it consciously, I ain't trying to be a slave owner of Chinese plantations. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in and being with us. We wish you a great evening, and we will continue all this year and all the years that we are still breathing to bring you the great stories that people out there are dismissing just because. All right. Have a great evening. Louise Wachu broadcasting from Vancouver this Thursday, January 17th, 2013. Muramuche.